Today is Chaf Hey Sivan, and it should be a good day for everyone. I want especially to mention my granddaughter Mushka Goodman, who is today is her 8th birthday, Baruch Hashem, and she should have a healthy, good, successful year. B'ezrat Hashem is Mashiach now. We are on page Reish Chaf Vav, okay? The line that starts Haheder Chulu. 8 lines from the bottom of the main paragraph. Haheder Chulu, and then there is footnote number 89 and Venimtza. What are we talking about? We are in the middle of the Rebbe still explaining how the approach of the Mekubalim is not acceptable, that Keser is Ein Sof and Keser is Kadmon. And he's in the middle of abschlagging their, counteracting with different reasonings this approach of the Mekubalim, Harishonim, the early Mekubalim, saying that even Or Ein Sof, in which the Ratzon, which means Keser, of Hashem for world came up, is not Kadmon, is not primordial. What is Or Ein Sof? Or Ein Sof is called Gilui Rצוני. And it's a very interesting thing because it has two opposite aspects that give it two milers. On one hand, Or Ein Sof is like the light, so to speak, lehavdil, the light that comes from the sun, that it is generated from the sun b'derech mimele, in a natural, automatic way. The sun doesn't have to will it all the time and to make it happen. It happens automatically. And so too, Or Ein Sof is an automatic, so to speak, and b'derech mimele, a natural gilui of Hashem that doesn't necessitate a special ratzon for it to be created and Hashem investing himself to be created. No, it's a gilui like Or. That's why one of the reasons why it's called Or. So it spreads from Hashem, from Atzmus, b'derech mimele, in a natural, automatic way. At the same time, the Rebbe is calling it, listen, I'm shortening a little bit because you can go so much deeper into this discussion, but it's really, maybe the next time we'll learn it. We go for a deeper cycle of analyzing it, because as is we are going deep and we are in the shallow part of the deep discussion, So, but just to let you know, not to make anybody feel bad or be frustrated or whatever, it just is so much more to uncover here. But I just want to make it, I want us to broaden our kalim of concentrating and reflecting and absorbing information and so on, and reaching the omek, and hopefully if I bring in with it, I want to do it, but at the same time, I want also to move on to cover ground because it's very important as well. And I don't want to overwhelm ourselves. Okay, so we are talking about Or Ein Sof. It's a very deep inyan. It has two opposite things. On one hand is b'derech mimeli, which means that it doesn't, that supports that it doesn't affect Hashem. Like the light of the sun doesn't diminish the sun, doesn't affect the sun. Whatever happens to it, it can change, it can go here, it can go there, it can be going through different colored glass and take on this color, that color. It wouldn't affect the sun at all. The truth is it wouldn't even affect the Or at all. But right now that's not the discussion. At the same time, there's a big difference between the light from the sun and the light in Or and Sof. Why? Because the sun doesn't have a choice. It's a gilui tivi, it's a gilui hechrachi. It's a must kind of gilui. The sun is forced, so to speak, to shine. This is its nature that was coined in it. Which actually, on the other hand, gives the sunlight, if you want to get more deep, give the sunlight more legitimacy. It makes it more true. Because if there cannot be sun without light, then the light is really chashuv. The light has emes like the sun does. This is not the case in Or and Sof. In this sense, Or and Sof is way less than the sunlight. Why? Because Or and Sof is not a gilui hechrachi, is not a necessary gilui. Hashem is not imposed by shining light. He's not imposed upon, meaning that if he wishes, there will be no light. It's gilui retsoni. It's on one hand mimele, it's natural, it's without Hashem investing himself, and therefore ani avai lo shanisi. Doesn't change Hashem. Like the light of the sun doesn't change the sun. But unlike the sun, by Hashem, it's not gilui TV or gilui achrachi. It's not that the sun has no choice and Hashem has no choice. He has to shine Or and Sof. No. Lemaisa, he does. Lemaisa, as long as Hashem is, his light is. But it is gilui retsoni. It's not imposed upon Hashem. And if he wished, there would be no light. That, by the way, makes the Or and Sof even less mitzius than the sunlight. Because the sun has no choice, and therefore the light is a real thing, like the sun is a real thing. Or and Sof, Hashem has a choice. So really, in terms of the mitzius of Or and Sof, it's not such a real thing. As we call it, kemo kadmo aheder. That's how we call it here. Or and Sof is like preceded by non-existence. Why like? Because actually it's not the case. Or and Sof always existed. But it is kemo kadmo aheder. It is as if it was preceded by non-existence. Why? Because it is up to Hashem to make it exist or not. In this case, he does and always did. But it's retsoni. It's willingly. If Hashem wishes, it would not shine. And therefore, it's as if, in terms of the nature of existence of the light, it is as if it is preceded by non-existence. Versus Ratzon. Ratzon is something else. Ratzon is something that has to be invested and has to be aroused. And therefore, we call it really kadmo aheder. Ratzon is literally preceded by non-existence because sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there. Ragopin is saying that the light that is mispashet, that is extended, Or and Sof, me'akadosh Baruch Hu, in a manner of mimele, right? That's the nature of the light, that it shines, so to speak, by itself. It doesn't require efforts. But it depends on the Ratzon of Hashem, and if Hashem will not will it, it will not be spreading from Atzmus, from the essence. And therefore, on one hand, the Ispashtus doesn't cause any shinui, any change in Hashem, because it's mimele, it's automatic. On the other hand, it depends on the Ratzon of Hashem, and it's not a must by him. And he is the Balabais, he is the the one that is in charge of this hashpah. And this is that the light is called Gilui Rtzoni. It's a Gilui, like a Gilui of light, which it does like by itself, so to speak, but it's Rtzoni, it's by choice, as CP is saying. On the other hand, explain Rabbi Gopin, based on the Rebbe Rashab here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have to will it in order for the light to be issued from him. The sun doesn't have to will it out of itself. Hashem doesn't have to create a new will for the sun to shine. It's not like Mamash Ratzon. Ratzon is a new will that is born. Like you, as we said last time, you passed by the store, you saw a dress. You want it now. You didn't want it before. And in order to get it, you have to, first create a will to have it, and then the will to go into the store, and a will to this, and a will to that, and a will to spend the money. There'll be a lot of sub-wills here invested, but this is not the way the Ma'or shines the Or. It's not the way a luminary shines light. The light comes mimele, like the sun. Doesn't change the sun, and therefore the Or that is shining mimele doesn't change God. Doesn't cause a shinu in the asmus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yet the hashpah from him is not mukhrachat, is not imposed on him. He doesn't have to. And therefore when he wants, the light is elicited, and when he doesn't want, it doesn't. So now we can understand why the Rebbe Rashab is calling it Ke'ilu Kadmo HaHeder. The Or Ein Sof is as if was preceded by non-existence. He'eder, absence. As if it was preceded by absence, by non-existence. If Or Ein Sof were like any other Ratzon is revealed through in a way that any other real Ratzon is revealed, then we would call Ein Sof Kadmo HaHeder Mamash, not Ke'ilu, not as if, but really it was preceded by non-existence. Because when it comes to Ratzon doesn't exist, and then it comes up and exists. But since the light is revealed in a manner of what we just called Gilui Rtzoni, and it comes out of Hashem in a manner of Mimele, of automatically, so to speak, naturally, from this we understand that there is no stage, no point that there was no light. It always was. So Or Ein Sof always exists, and because of that, when it comes to Or Ein Sof that always existed or always exists in a natural way, like Or comes out of a Ma'or, you cannot say that Kadmo HaHeder Mamash. Meaning, since Or Ein Sof always existing, you cannot say that Or Ein Sof was literally preceded by non-existence, because it was always there. When God was there, Or Ein Sof was there. Since God was always there, Or Ein Sof was always there. Is God mukhrach by it? Does it have to be so? No, but lemaise, literally it is. And therefore, since literally this is the case, that actually this is the case, that Or Ein Sof always was, always is, you cannot call it literally Kadmo HaHeder, that it was preceded by non-existence. You can say the most that it is as if it is preceded by non-existence, because theoretically Hashem can want for it not to exist. And therefore its existence to begin with is not primordial, theoretically. So look a little bit before here. Ve'im heyo shelo yesh kan ratzon bepoal chas shalom. So the Rebbe says that even though regarding Oren Sof, it's not an actual ratzon, and ratzon in actuality like any other ratzon, like the ratzon for worlds. The ratzon for worlds is kadmo heder mamash. Is mamash, you call it, preceded by non-existence. It's not kadmon, it wasn't always there. First, there's Oren Sof. And in Oren Sof came up the will to create worlds, to have worlds, to be a melech. That is mechudash. This is enu. This is ratzon mamash. So the fact that Hashem willingly let the light shine doesn't mean that it's in like a regular ratzon. He doesn't have to create a will for it at all. He just has to let it happen. So, on one hand, even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need to really will that there should be light, and therefore the light doesn't cause a shinui by him. It is mimele, automatic. Doesn't require any effort from God. Mikol makom, nevertheless, says the Rebbe, הרי הוא גילוי רצוני דווקא. It is a gilui, yes, ממילא, yes, but רצוני. Hashem is willing for it to happen. וממילא כאילו קדמו העדר חולו. And therefore, it is as if Or Ein Sof is preceded by non-existence because it's up to God for it to exist or not. We have to understand here, since it was explained that in such kind of amshacha, that is called Gilui Retsoni, the light actually exists all the time, only that Hashem could stop it if he wishes. If this is the case, you cannot say that Kadmo Aeder Klal. You cannot say that it was, you cannot really say that since Or was always there, how can you say that Kadmo Aeder, that if it is preceded by non-existence? It doesn't. Why we say it as if it does? And we already explained before earlier the basic difference, and really we brought the Rambam, if you remember, between the creator and the creation. That the metzius of creations is mechudeshes. The existence of creations is called mechudash, which means enu, out of non-existence that was preceded by non-existence. And therefore, all creations, their existence, if you please follow me and concentrate, all creations, their existence is an addition to their natural true state. Because all Nivraim, their natural initial true state is heder, is non-existence. They are all yesh me'ayin, right? All existences. So that means that really the true existence of anything that is not atzmus is really non-existence. And the fact that it exists is in addition to that. Tosefet. Umimele, anything else or everything that exists, you can call it Kadmo Aheder. It was preceded by non-existence. And yesh me'ayin doesn't mean that it is something out of 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 uh, of uh, of nothing. It's something out of God, but it has no thingness. It's not a something. It's not a mitzius built-in nimtza. It's mitzius nimtza. That means that it really its original state and its natural state is not to exist. That's the truth of the existence of our world. And therefore, the Rambam calls the Nimtzaim, all creations, Metzius Nimtza, an existence which is existential, a reality which is existential. What do you mean Nimtza? Because all their reality is based on the fact that they are in existence. And they could be not in existence. That is called Metzius Nimtza, which is not the case regarding HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Rambam calls it, is Metzius Bilti Nimtza. Is a Metzius, is an existence that is non-existential, meaning the reality of God is not depending on him existing rather than not. Why? Because it's not possible for Hashem not to exist. So the true condition of Hashem, the true initial primordial condition of Hashem is that he exists, what is called Mechuyav HaMetzius. His existence is a must. And this is what it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Kadmon, he's primordial, that he is never preceded by non-existence, versus all other Nimtzaim, all other existences. So what do we find from this? That the test of a metzius, of something, of an existence of something, is not depending, please follow me, we're almost done, is not depending, regarding this point, is not depending really to examine metzius, where it's not depending on the fact that metzius exists bepoal, in actuality. Rather, what is the real base of that metzius? And therefore, the Nivaim, all creations, that their base is really non-existence. This is their starting point. That are not in existence and then they are created. Kadma Ma'eder, all of them were preceded by non-existence, by absence of existence. But Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is Mechuyav HaMetzius, who is existence is Mechuyav, how you say Mechuyav? Is a fact, a non-negotiable fact. He is Kadmon, was never preceded by Heder, by absence. Which is not the case, so what now? What about Or Ein Sof? Or Ein Sof is, it looks like in something in between. On one hand, it's similar to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on the other hand, similar to all the Nivaim. In what way? Or Ein Sof is Gilui Rצוני, as we said. Is a revelation that is willed, that is happening because Hashem allows it, by choice. So what is the situation with Or Ein Sof? That even though bepoal, in actuality, Or Ein Sof always was, because why it always was? Because it is drawn out of the Atzmus of Hashem in a natural way, Mimele. That means it always was, Hashem never stopped it. So in that sense, Or Ein Sof looks like Kadmon. Why? Because it wasn't preceded by Heder. It wasn't preceded by non-existence. It always was. When God was, Or Ein Sof was. But God always was. So Or Ein Sof always was. So you cannot say that Or Ein Sof is preceded by non-existence, by Heder. But since it's possible that Or Ein Sof will not exist, will not shine, if Hashem will so, if Hashem wants so, Or Ein Sof that comes naturally from him will not shine. So that changes our view of what is the basis of Or Ein Sof, of the existence of Or Ein Sof. Really, the basis of the existence of Or Ein Sof is non-existence, because it's depending on the will of God. Automatically, it always was, and Hashem didn't stop it. Fine, but he could, he can. And therefore, literally, Or Ein Sof is not Kadmo Heder, was not preceded by non-existence. Why? Because it always was. But at the same time, it's Keilu Kadmo Heder. It is as if it was preceded by non-existence, because Hashem can make it exist or not. Like all other Nivraim, Hashem can make other Nivraim exist or not. And so too regarding Or Ein Sof. So it has both elements. On one hand, it's similar to all the Nivraim that were preceded by Heder, by absence, because Hashem willed them, and before that Hashem did not will them. Or Ein Sof is similar to them in the sense that Hashem allows it to be willingly and by choice, as Sipi says, and therefore their real base of existence, literally, it always was Or Ein Sof. Fine. So you cannot say Kadmo Heder Mamash. You cannot say that it was preceded by non-existence Mamash, literally, because it always was. At the same time, it's Keilu Kadmo Heder. It is as if it's similar to all other Nivraim, because Hashem can make it not exist. So from all this we learn and summarize that when you talk about an actual Ratzon, regular Ratzon Keser, Ratzon obligates a Shinui before it comes up and after it comes up. It causes Shinui. The opposite of Ratzon is Gilui TV. Gilui TV, as we learned before, a natural Gilui, like the light from the sun. The light of the sun is hechrachi, is a must. The sun must shine. Then you have the third one is Gilui Rtzoni, like Or Ein Sof, that on one hand it's not a must, like the sun. Hashem can choose it not shining. And at the same time, since it's mimele, it's natural and automatic, so to speak, it doesn't cause a change in God. So there is a big difference. The Hisabus of Keser, Ratzon, is from Ratzon Mamash, from an actual Ratzon that comes up in Hashem, really in His light, to create worlds. And therefore, the Rebbe doesn't agree with the Mekubalim that they call Ratzon Ein Sof and Kadmon, Kekadmuso, and all these things. No, that's a Sphira. Ratzon that was not and then is, to have worlds. And therefore, Keser is Kadmo Heder Mamash. Keser is Mamash, literally was preceded by non-existence. But Or Ein Sof is revealed in a manner of Gilui Rtzoni. So it's a Gilui Mimele, but Gilui Rtzoni, it's willingly, it's by choice, and therefore we call it Kemo Shekadmo Heder. Literally, it's not preceded by absence, but is as if, because any time it cannot exist. And therefore, in that, it is put in the same box like all other creations. We just have to differentiate between the system of how Hashem creates the world, and then the kavana of creation, and how it relates to Hashem and His Atzmus. These are two different, not different, I mean, they're two separate subjects. Right now, we are learning about the world of Atzilus and trying to understand if the, in the world of the spheros, which is our building blocks of our reality and our consciousness as well. And we are trying to understand if Atzilus is yesh me'ayin or gilui ha'elem. So in that process, we are learning about different concepts to understand the relation between God and Seder Ishtalshelus. And beginning with issuing his light, Or Ein Sof, and what is Or Ein Sof, and how it is an evolvement of the consciousness of human mind led by the Mekubalim, or the people of the inner dimension of the Torah, and peaking by the Alter Rebbe and the older Rebbeim that followed to Mashiach Tzidkenu. So it's not a contradiction, but right now this is not the topic. The topic is to really understand the different approaches of the mystics regarding God and world, and why is it so important, and why the Alter Rebbe brought up the Chidush based on the Arizal of Or Ein Sof, of the light of Hashem that itself is Ein Sof. Ein Sof, the way we defined Ein Sof, the all Mekubalim agree that Ein Sof means Ein Sof lis pashtuso, and it means that there is no Torah, there is no form, there is no adjective, there is no description, and so on and so forth. So we are learning the different approaches to the relation between the Creator, God Himself, and worlds. And the Rebbe Rashab will explain how each shita, each approach, is lacking in its completion, beginning with the early Mekubalim that were in the middle of the Rebbe presenting all kinds of reasons why their view is not acceptable, that Keser is Kadmon Kekadmuso and Ein Sof. And then the Rebbe also will show that there are, and therefore the Rebbes we clarified last time and the one before, that the Rebbe makes a clear statement that we follow the Da'at, that they are of the Ramak, that they're not Keser that creates, it's Atzmus that only Atzmus can create, and Keser is not Kadmon, and nothing, and therefore you cannot apply the term Ein Sof on Keser. And the Rebbe says that following the Alter Rebbe, that the derech of the Ramak, Rav Moshe Kortobero, is more clear and is more correct. But then, after finishing showing that the Mekubalim's way is not acceptable, and we are in the middle of that still, the Rebbe also, and in between maybe also, the Rebbe will show that the Ramak is also, even though we're basically following the Ramak, the derech of the Ramak, but he will show how the Ramak is missing, especially what does it mean, Ayahu Ushmo Echad, Rabbi de Pirkei Eliezer, that before the creation was created, there was Hashem and His name. The Ramak doesn't relate, doesn't explain what is the name that was there before. And the Mekubalim say, oh, that's Keser. That means in Atzmus this Keser. And that is not acceptable as we are learning now.
I was thinking, Atmos is unknowable, right? The Mar itself is black. Could we look at Or Ein Sof like a mask, like Atmos puts a mask in front of it, and in the guise of Or Sof, and says, okay,
Well, the mask
my
is a problem. Your analogy of a mask is a problem because of what Miriam says, or me'ein amar, that because of the nature of the light to reflect the ma'or, the source solely, nothing else, it doesn't have an ego. Therefore, the light carries tchunos of the ma'or. So it's not a
okay.
mask that blocks, it's a mask that reveals. But perhaps another way to look at it is like every person has an aura. When I see you, I don't see you etzem. I see your aura, your complexion, your reflection, your what you exude. So you're not invested in that, in how you look. I don't mean the makeup you put on. I look at you, it's mimele, bederech mimele. It naturally comes out. Some people even see the aura of people. They say there's this color, that color, this close to the body is white, and then it can be a reddish or bluish or this or that. They give it even physical descriptions. But when you look at someone, you look at their aura. The only thing is, since it's part of our natural existence, in that sense, we are kind of similar to the sun. You cannot stop your aura, like the sun cannot stop its light. But it is good in terms of the part of the mashal that explains how this shachar is hamshach, and her aura is mimele, meaning it doesn't involve effort and therefore no shinui in the source of the light, no change.
Could we say that Atmos gives Or Sof the power, like a general Havdo would give power to his first in command to carry out everything that he desired?
Yeah, but not through effort, which means he allows it that the or should reveal the mao. That the or should reveal that everything that Atmos is, including the ability to create.
Not everything Atmos is, because there's a lot of Atmos, mala, that can never be revealed.
Yes, but even that, because the or is so battle, then even that, the or can carry it. It's not part of the or's personality at all, because the or doesn't have Yeshus. But since the or is so battled to the Ma'or, it also carries the Yeshus of the Ma'or. But that's not directly the discussion here. The discussion here, it does make a difference, because if you remember, we did mention that when the Mekubalim say that Keser has the quality of Ein Sof, if you call it Ein Sof, the way we define Ein Sof, according to the Ramak and the Mekubalim agree, Ein Sof means Ein Sof Lispashtuso, Ein Sof means no form, no tzio, no real infinite, no beginning. Okay? So the one of the reasons that Hasidus really rejects that approach, that Keser is Kadmon and Keser is the creator, therefore, is because that means what? That when we are now establishing any relationship with our creator, are we establishing a relationship with Keser? Or are we establishing a relationship with Atzmus? And Mekubalim say Atzmus is like you said before. Atzmus we have nothing to do with. Atzmus you cannot talk about. You can talk about Keser. Keser is our creator. So that means what? When I say Shema Yisrael, Keser Elokeinu, Keser Echad, that means that the top I can reach is Keser? Hasidus, whoa, would never accept that. Hasidus makes the point that our connection is what you're standing for, Sterne, is Atmos. That we are relation is Atmos. And therefore we are following the derech of the Ramak. Ramak says only Atmos creates. Hasidus says yes. But Hasidus says we don't agree with the Ramak in one way. that he says that nothing else can be called Ein Sof. And Chassidus says, we disagree. You're right that nothing else can be called Kadmon. Only Atzmos can be called Kadmon. But something else can be called Ein Sof. And that is the Or. Why is the Or in Sof is Ein Sof? And not like you're saying the Ramak. The Or is not Ein Sof. The Or is limited, but the Or is from Ein Sof. No, we say that the Or is Ein Sof. Why? Because Miriam says, Or Meina Maor. That the light carries the quality because of its total dveikus, attachment. And Bitul, the light carries the quality of the Maor, of the source. That means it carries infinity, true infinity, and it carries the ability to create. And therefore, it's the light that creates. How? Oh, in the light, a new Ratzon has to come up, to be born, to come up. A Ratzon for creation. That is Keser. But that's not Kadmon, that's not Ein Sof.
So where does that first come up?
In Or Ein Sof, after Or Ein Sof shines.
Within Or Ein Sof?
Yes.
Or after? Or Ein Sof creates?
Within Or Ein Sof, לפני הצמצום comes now Ratzon for worlds, the 10 ספירות הגנוזos, the 10 hidden spheres. That's Ratzon Mamash. That Ratzon that wasn't there and now it's Mechudash. But the Rebbe says, so far, the Rebbe says, you know what? Not only the Ratzon is Mechudash, even Or Ein Sof, within which Ratzon comes up and is born, so to speak, Yesh Me'ayin, so to speak, Mechudash. Even Or Ein Sof is not Kadmon. Is like Mechudash. Is really Mechudash because it's Or. It has a beginning, so it's new. And you cannot call it Kadmon. But you can call it Ein Sof. And this is in where we differ from the Ramak. Ramak says you cannot call anything else but Atzmus Ein Sof. Chassidus says no. We follow the Arizal who says Or Ein Sof. Or itself is Ein Sof. Why? Because Or Me'ein HaMa'or. That's the Chidush of the Alter Rebbe. But now in the middle of still proving, bring a few more points to prove that not only the Or is not Atzmus, as the Mekubalim, since the Mekubalim say that Keser is Atzmus, is part of Atzmus, so not only that Keser is not Atzmus, but even Or within which Keser comes up is Mechudash. Is not new, is not Be'etzem Kadmon, because it's Or. Or has a beginning.
Chana, I like very much the motto of you say every person has an aura. I think we can even say every person has a light. Sometimes you shine your light. You come in, you come in, and each one has a light. But this light, it doesn't represent your mind or it's coming from your essence. And it's very something very, I don't know.
On one hand,
to me, it was a very nice motto to relate.
On one hand is the most external part of you. That means it's a gilui.
Yes.
Gilui, the Rebbe says gilui.
Right.
Gilui means that it is perceived. It has a keli. That's part of you that is perceived by the one that looks at it.
Yeah,
At the
but this
same
doesn't have a
time, you are
keli.
right. It is what is megalek, since it's bederach mimele. It's not mechudash. It is really naturally megale who you are.
Right, your essence, because it doesn't have any form yet. It doesn't have any, like you said, I don't know how you said, it doesn't have any description.
It's energetic information.
Yeah, because
it's
the nature
energetic.
of light that is there's no Yeshus. So all it wants to do is reveal the source.
Yeah, you see somebody walks in and you see such a light. They brought such a light in the room because they're such a beautiful person, they're such beautiful neshama, but it's even deeper.
Yep.
It's tzaddik.
Yep.
The light comes from him before he says anything, before he does anything.
Yes.
Just around him, you feel such an amazing light.
Yes. But we still,
With that,
the
it's
difference
memele,
is
with
that
that-
it's b'derech mimele.
without
The
any
only thing is we
effort.
cannot stop it. Hashem can stop it.
Of course. We can never have emotional with Hashem, with Atzmos. There's no way.
With the
Because
Ein Sof.
we coming our nature to be non-existent. We come back to the same. Only Hashem is the true existence.